This week, we're going to talk about growth stage businesses. So the first stage is solopreneurs, and you might be a solopreneur that's a master craftsman. You might be a solopreneur that is an orchestra director. This week, we're going to talk about growth stage businesses. And again, your growth stage business, you might be a master craftsman and or you might be an orchestra director. There's pros and cons to both. And so if you're in this space, one of the things that's true is that you're wearing a lot of hats still. This phase in business, you typically will have 3 or more employees, maybe 3 to 15-ish, and you're typically running multiple jobs at the same time. What's consistent about these businesses is many of you guys, and I was in this phase years ago, and I was hiring friends and family. What's consistent about growth stage businesses is you're looking through your network, your sphere of influence, and you're hiring friends and family. One of the positives to that is many of them are known and trusted, right? The negative to them is very few of them are master craftsmen. So what we experience in this phase is that if you are a master craftsman, you're still dependent upon executing a lot of the work. If you're an orchestra director, as I was, and I was using, at this point, I went from 1099 to W-2 employees, I was dependent upon them to be the master craftsman. What was consistent and what is consistent in this stage of business is that you do have a lot of employees that are employees, but they're not master craftsmen yet, right? So a couple of the pain points. One of the pain points is that a lot of the work, again, goes through you. You're the decision maker. This is when you start hearing people talk about getting decision fatigue, they're typically in this stage of business, this growth stage, where a lot of your 3 to 15 employees seem to be coming to you all the time to ask questions, and you're getting amazing decision fatigue. A couple other things that happens in this phase is your leadership is very flat, right? So what that means is not only is it decision fatigue, but the responsibilities and the burden of responsibilities, it feels like you're carrying a lot of the weight. This is a stage in business where a lot of times you'll hear yourself saying things like, why do I have all these guys on payroll when I'm making all the decisions, right? That's something that's common in this stage of business, is that you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm shouldering all the responsibility. What's consistent in this stage of business is that you're typically working 6 and 7 days a week. You're working all the time. It's a very anxiety-ridden space where you feel anxious a lot of the times. It does feel like whack-a-mole. I mean, I would argue this is in the phases of business, solopreneur, growth stage, in mature businesses, which we'll talk about next week, I would argue this is the most difficult phase. And it's a phase that is so difficult that a lot of times our friends that own businesses will go from trying to grow into this growth stage and they'll scale back. A lot of times the default is to scale back to be a solopreneur. In the growth stage, you typically will make less money than you did as a solopreneur. And we'll get into some of the benefits later, but there are a lot of benefits. One of the benefits is you can't get to the mature phase without going through the growth phase, right? Or that growth stage. You can't get to the mature stage without going through the growth stage. So, but it is one of those places, if you look at a continuum from going from a solopreneur to maybe 3 employees versus on the back end of the growth stage, where maybe you're doing maybe all the sales still, maybe you're running the operations, but you're not performing a lot of the craftsman work, and you're moving into more of a mature phase or stage. The in-between is really painful. This is a really tough spot to be.